On the day of my brother's wedding, my sister-in-law threw a barrage of insults at me. It was supposed to be a happy occasion where I longed to share in the joy, but her words cut deep, and I couldn't stand it any longer. I knew from the moment we met that there was no affinity between us. There is no room in this place for a creature like you, a woman carrying a child. Return to where you belong. My name is Elizabeth H3, and I attend the ceremony. I manage household expenses and work part-time. 3 years ago, I married my husband Robert, who is 2 years my senior. Robert works as a buyer and salesperson at a major department store, and his youthful appearance helps him achieve excellent sales results there. Having always desired children, we underwent fertility treatments and were thrilled when we finally conceived our first child, and I couldn't wait to tell Robert about it. He was overjoyed when I told him, and it looks like we've been truly blessed. Does that mean that we're actually going to have a baby? I'm thrilled that I can't stop crying, and my husband's tears mirrored mine as he expressed his gratitude and embraced me tightly from that point on. Every day was filled with excitement and anticipation as we awaited the birth of our child. But someone else was also looking forward to it. My brother Thomas, who is 4 years my senior. Thomas has loved me since I was a child, and our sibling bond is still strong as adults. He knew about our infertility struggles, so when I told him I was pregnant, his joy matched my husband's. Whether it was my marriage or now my pregnancy, our mother back home was reportedly so thrilled by the news that she was left completely speechless. I hold my brother in the highest regard, and 2 months into my pregnancy, he reached out to speak with me. I asked him directly, observing his hesitant demeanor, and he scratched his head nervously, saying, "Well, I'm getting." I think he's pretty handsome, but his reserved nature may have limited his chances with women in the past. Thomas, my brother, attended an all-boys school for middle and high school and then studied in a male-dominated science department at the university. As a result, I had never considered the possibility that he might have a girlfriend, even though our parents suggested that they set up meetings to find him a woman, but he consistently declined. She's 3 years younger than me, so she's only a year older than you, Elizabeth. Her name is Rebecca, and we met at work. What does she have to do with your job? Well, she's the president's daughter of one of our business partners, which is amazing. It sounds like something from a movie. Married now is a shock I can't hide. I imagine this is a surprise, he said. My brother laughed and gasped in surprise, saying, "You're making a big deal out of this, even though she comes from such a background." We're both getting older, and he always hoped for my happiness, so seeing my brother so earnest about his future warmed my heart. He's finally found someone special to share his life with, and it made me feel like I was celebrating my own happiness. Good luck. A month later, my brother showed us his fiancée in our flat. It was enjoyable to meet you. My name is Elizabeth, and I greeted her as the younger sister. Rebecca is your brother's fiancée. She was so elegant and sophisticated that she looked like a woman who was driven by her career. I couldn't help but feel as though we were from different worlds. Replied, glancing briefly over me. For a brief moment, it seemed as though her eyes were penetrating me, but I dismissed it as my imagination. However, it quickly became clear that my suspicion was correct, as she paid little attention to me during our conversation and instead focused on my husband Robert. Your work as a salesperson at that esteemed department store is truly impressive, she said, engaging him in. With her eyes fixed on him, she asked, "Of course, thank you. We'll be looking forward to your visit." It was clear that Rebecca treated my husband and me differently, and it appeared that she might be attempting to flirt with him. My husband responded awkwardly, "Oh well, thank you. I haven't had the chance to shop recently. Would you mind recommending something suitable for me next time I visit?" I didn't want to dampen the mood, particularly since my brother had selected her as his partner, and just as my brother wanted me to be happy, I wanted him to be happy too. I couldn't allow something as trivial as her cold attitude toward me to ruin my brother's happiness, so I remained silent, despite my worries. Rebecca then began going to the department store where my husband works, and one day my husband came home and sighed in frustration. Rebecca stopped by my section once more today. She was there yesterday as well, wasn't she? Yes, she is making a lot of purchases, which is okay, but even when I'm helping other customers, she keeps interrupting without warning, which is annoying the other salespeople as well. It's getting to be a bit of a hassle, you know. My husband says that every time Rebecca comes in, she makes purchases worth thousands of dollars, which benefits the store. The much-anticipated day of my brother's wedding finally arrived, months after she had voiced concern that her spending habits, despite being the president's daughter, might raise some red flags. At that point, I was well into the later stages of my pregnancy, with my belly prominently showing. It was a once-in-a-lifetime occasion for my dear brother, and I was sure it would be a beautiful ceremony. I felt a rush of excitement as I left the house decorated. The situation started when I got to the venue and went up to the reception desk wearing a maternity party dress I had bought especially for this special day. I'm Elizabeth Smith, the groom's sister, and this is my husband Robert. When I gave the receptionist my name, she seemed perplexed, asking if I was the groom's sister. I replied, "Yeah, I'm Thomas Harris's sister," which was strange, and then she said something unexpected. We were informed that my husband and I were both planning to attend, but we were told that the groom's sister had other commitments and wouldn't be coming. Hold on, there must have been a mistake. Mr. Smith is listed as a guest, and it is confirmed that the cancellation only applies to you, the sister. I was left speechless by this unexpected turn of events about the groom's sister. My husband asked the receptionist, who told him that my wife wouldn't be going. It was the bride. Rebecca answered, and his expression hardened as he sensed something was missing. "Could you please fetch Rebecca?" he asked firmly. Shortly after, Rebecca and a woman who seemed to be her mother came up to us, confirming the disturbing truth, and I confronted Rebecca directly. I never once said that I wouldn't be attending, so I protested incredulously with a sneer. She responded, "Your presence is of no concern to me. Elizabeth isn't coming because you're nothing but trouble." Understand? Huh? What are you talking about? Let's be clear from the start. I've never cared for you. You parade around as if you're superior just because you're bad. What's going on? Am I marked as absent? I had sensed her coolness toward me, but I never expected such deep-seated hatred to stun me. She glared down at me, her words cutting like ice. "Didn't I make it clear that you're nothing but trouble and there's no room here? Because you have a decent-looking brother and husband, I've hated you since the day we met. Your plain appearance doesn't match your lofty name, Elizabeth. You're nothing but an obstacle to my happiness, goo." For a pregnant user like you, I was stunned, but the shock didn't stop there. Her mother even started saying nasty things that I couldn't believe were true. Rebecca is right. Having someone as ugly as you at her wedding is a hassle. It's bad enough that Rebecca is connected to you. Rebecca turned to face me, and I went on leaving, but now you're just getting in the way. You're an ugly pregnant woman in that. My husband interrupted me just as I was about to reply, saying, "How dare you speak to my wife like that? I never thought Rebecca could be so disrespectful. Let's go home, Robert. It's not worth it." I said, "Are you sure you don't want to stay here any longer? Let's go." I insisted on holding my husband's arm as we left the venue, and Rebecca and her mother insulted me. Following us, my brother rushed to our house a few hours later. He thanked Elizabeth Robert and said, "I'm really sorry about Rebecca's behavior." "It's not your fault, Thomas," he said. "How did the rest of the wedding go?" I asked the guests to leave halfway through because I couldn't bear to watch the ceremony go on after what happened to my dear sister, which was a smart move, but why did Rebecca harbor such animosity towards me? Well, I was shocked to hear what had happened as well, so I replied, unsure of where he was taking this. My brother's voice was quiet, and it sounded like Rebecca had been jealous of you, Elizabeth. We've always been close as siblings, and Robert is pretty handsome, so it seemed to bother her to see you beaming and expecting a child. Why would that be an issue? She was shopping extravagantly at my husband's department store because she finds him attractive. Incredulous, I said that my brother seemed worried about me. According to him, Rebecca was upset that on her wedding day, people would be more interested in your pregnancy than her. She didn't like people asking how far along you are or saying you look happy. It seems unbelievable that she would react that way over such a trivial matter. "I'm deeply sorry that my decisions have hurt you," my brother said, bowing his head in apology. The next day, my mother asked us to come home, so my husband and I hurried home. My brother, preoccupied with his work, had entrusted Rebecca with all the wedding planning, and whenever he tried to offer input, he was shut down because the bride was the focus of the day and he couldn't intervene. Rebecca's father was already there when we got there, his face flushed with rage, and Rebecca and her mother were following him. He looked very serious, asking, "Rebecca, don't you have something to say to Elizabeth?" When her father prompted her to do so, Rebecca clicked her tongue and used it in protest. "Why should I apologize? I was the center of attention at the wedding. When will you stop this nonsense?" Her mother swiftly agreed with her. Rebecca's outburst was exactly Rebecca's fault, It's all this woman's fault. Both Rebecca and her mother publicly voiced their disapproval without displaying any remorse, and then her father, who was clearly shaking, spoke up. "Who do you think you're speaking to? How dare you utter such words to these individuals?" he exclaimed, his tongue filled with outrage, and he bowed deeply before us. "I am profoundly sorry for the despicable actions of my wife and daughter. I beg you to find it in your hearts to forgive us for this grievous incident despite his earnestness. I spoke plainly, but do you really think we'll forgive you? We couldn't attend our beloved brother's wedding after you mistreated us, so how could we possibly forgive you? If you don't forgive us, it will cause serious problems for our business," Rebecca's father interjected. Rebecca's father is a wholesaler who deals in imported goods and has a business relationship with my brother's company. However, after the recent events, my brother became enraged and asked his employer to sever ties with Rebecca's father's company. As a result, her father is now begging for my forgiveness in an attempt to save the business relationship with my brother's company. Hadn't realized how much power my brother's business held, even though Rebecca was the president's daughter. Her father kept apologizing and shaking his head repeatedly, but it was obvious that his main concern was protecting his business, which is why, deeply unhappy that the conversation was going nowhere, I firmly told Rebecca and her family I won't interact with you any longer, and if you go ahead and marry my brother, I'll cut off all contact with him as well. "Hold on, my dad is apologizing a lot, and you don't have any sympathy." Rebecca yelled at me in an angry, sympathetic tone, "And you dare bring that up? You brought this mess on yourself, so apologize. Your selfishness destroyed my brother's happiness, and you're not the right person for him." I threw Rebecca and her family out of my parents' house after her tirade. Shortly after learning that my brother and Rebecca had called off their engagement, she loudly objected, refusing to end things. Eventually, my brother had to hire a lawyer, and he also arranged for a settlement to be paid to me. Although I was hesitant, my brother insisted that it was the least I could do to make amends, so I gratefully accepted. In retrospect, it seems appropriate, given their behavior, to say that someone like Rebecca, who could so easily hurl cruel insults, would eventually face the consequences of her actions. Rebecca's family's misfortune worsened, and her father's business eventually declared bankruptcy. It appears that losing business with my brother's company, which was a crucial part of their operations, left them unable to stay afloat, and they lost everything. Meanwhile, I gave birth. Safe and happy, and my brother has recovered from his engagement breakup. He comes to see me nearly every day to spend time with my daughter and show her love. "Robert, allow me to hold her for a little while, but you just had her a short while ago. I'll be leaving in an hour, okay? I guess I can let you see that my brother and husband were taking turns holding our precious newborn daughter, and as I listened to their endearing conversation, I couldn't help but smile, but have a feeling of comfort and satisfaction.